We're going up. It says we're live. Okay. Give me a second here while I get in my Facebook and just monitor the comments and chats as we go.
Perfect.
And we'll wait a little bit too for people to jump on.
Yeah.
But okay.
So I can, let me just,
Hello, Rodrigo. Great to see you. Thank you for joining. If you guys can hear me okay, would you please just comment the word Friday? We all love Fridays. So if you can comment the word Friday, let me know that you can hear me and that you guys are on live. And if you are watching this on a replay, if you just type the comment replay for me, that'd be great. So people are jumping on here a little bit. I'm enjoying my Friday afternoon. And first of all, welcome to Wisdom Club Live as we come down to you and just kind of always here live for you on Monday through Fridays at 5 p.m. So definitely, tune in if you are around. I know probably a lot of you are either stuck or doing errands for getting ready for the weekend. And we have a really short week next week with the uh, 4th of July coming up. So I'm looking forward to having some celebration. But today, I have a really great guest. His name is Daniel Krikorian. Did I say your last name right?
you got it. That's great.
Awesome. Um, so, so Daniel, do you prefer people call you Dan or they call you Daniel?
um, I go by Dan. My this Zoom account that I have has Daniel on it, so but Dan is what I normally go by.
Cool, cool. Captain Dan.
Sure, that works too.
um, we are actually meeting here for the first time. So I don't know too much about you. So we'll of course dig into some of those. It was always great to kind of have these first conversations live and getting to know people very, very organically. And you come by the way of Michaela Compton, a great musician friend of mine who's been in the music industry for, gosh, I think it's over 20 years, 25 years at least. And she's been big on the music scenes and runs her own show highlighting musicians on a radio show for a very long time. I had her on earlier in our Facebook Live series. I'm going to probably have her back to kind of catch up on what's going on. But she was kind enough to introduce Dan to us, and I'm very excited to know all about him and his life and kind of what it's all about. So, Dan, could you give everybody a little bit of intro to kind of who you are, where you're from, that kind of stuff?
Sure, thanks, Leo. And I do appreciate you having me on this Friday afternoon as people are getting home from work, whether they went in or just moved from one room to the next room. Depends on what they're doing right now. But as you mentioned, my name is Dan Krikorian. Um, we can kind of go a lot of different directions in this with as far as my careers, but I'm a few things. So I'm the associate head men's basketball coach at Chapman University here in Orange County. Going on my 8th year as a coach at Chapman University. I'm also an adjunct professor at the school as well. I teach a few courses on sport and society, leadership, things like that. So that's kind of one part of my life, the basketball and the coaching and professorship. And then on the other side, as you mentioned, Michaela Compton, I'm also a professional touring musician. I released my 5th record last year, and I have my 6th record coming out this year. And so my off seasons of coaching and being a professor, I am traveling all over the world. Really, I unfortunately should be in Europe right now on a tour if it wasn't for COVID. So I do that as well. And then also on top of that, I'm also the host of the Beautiful Work podcast. And so we do deep dives with all sorts of really interesting folks in various careers. And so put all those things together, and that's a little bit of what I do.
Yeah, so I want to just touch on all of those things just a little bit, and we can kind of dig in a little deeper as
Mm-hmm.
we go. So, first of all, you don't know, but I'm a big basketball fan, and I've watched basketball, gosh, since I was in my very early 20s in college. Never really played to a certain extent, but I loved the game. I loved all the mental game, the physical game, and just the whole game of how it's so dynamic and that anything can turn. And I've been originally a Jordan fan forever, but when Jordan retired, I had nobody really to compare him to and to be enjoying, that as much.
Uh-huh.
Kobe came on the scene, and I didn't really like Kobe that much. I thought he was just kind of brash, and he really didn't have the physicality that Jordan had. And so, but then, as everybody can attest to, I think most people who have followed his life is that they really want, he really won everybody over, and he certainly has me. So those are really really big, things in my life, because it's every year we're always watching, so lots of lessons in planning, lots of lessons in who's ready, who's not, lots of lessons in teamwork, lots of lessons in how coaching is different from one team to another. So a bunch of those things. And then music wise, um, I went to college playing a classical piano. And so,
Okay.
music has always been, a part of me that is very private to me. I never really perform at any kind of a full extent, but I had a pretty foundational music education. So I very, very much appreciate music of all levels and can appreciate, the nuances of the genius of different genres and things like that. So for both of those things, never really made it as a profession, but they're definitely passions of mine, as an everyday life. And so those have really hit home for me. And so you, on the basketball side, could you touch on a little bit like, hey, how, like, you've been coaching, from what I heard just from your introduction, you've been coaching for 8 years. Did basketball start earlier on for you, or how did that kind of come about?
Yeah, so I've been at Chapman for going into my eighth year now. Before that, I was at the high school level for 4 years. So I worked my way from high school. I was JV coach, eventually a varsity assistant. I became the varsity head coach at my old alma mater, Costa Mesa High School, before coming back to Chapman to coach. I was an undergrad at Chapman. I went to Chapman and played basketball, and so that was my introduction to Chapman University. So after 4 years at the high school level, the head coach currently is named by Mike Bukowski. He's been at Chapman for almost 30 years, and he coached me. And when the spot opened up, he invited me to come back and join the staff. And so it's been 12 going on. Well, yeah, if you count some of my earlier coaching, it's over a decade of coaching, but now 8 going at the college level. And so um, it's a real joy. I mean, it's a real passion of mine that I'm lucky that it's also my career. I also, you know, I get paid to go out in basketball shorts and shoes every day and teach kids, the game of basketball and talk about life. So I'm very lucky in that standpoint. Before I got into coaching, I worked for 2 years in the mutual fund industry. I was a business major at Chapman, so I went into that world a little bit. Wasn't quite for me at that point in my life. I wanted to do something a little bit different, but it was a good experience, and so that led me eventually into the coaching.
Yeah, you got to have that contrast, right? Like, if you never had tried it, you never know the difference, right?
Yeah, it was. I still to this day, rely on my financial background. I worked at a company called American Funds in Irvine, a very big mutual fund company, and learned what it was like right out of college to have a great, big boy job and pay the bills and go every day to the office. And the financial literacy that I learned as a young adult was and is extremely helpful for all the various things that I do now. So, nothing is wasted, but I definitely use that to springboard into the things that I was more passionate about.
That's great. So for all of you guys who are listening out there, maybe you don't know, but Chapman University is one of the best private colleges, here in the country. Doesn't get as much uh, fanfare as like your USC, UCLA, and UCLA being more not quite fully private, but USC definitely for sure. But Chapman, I remember when I was in college, we always go over there to listen to all the annual recitals from all the faculty as well as the top students there. Their private, classical piano concerts. Like I'm there like every year, so I have
Uh-huh.
like fond memories, you know. And so to be in that position to coach for Chapman University is very very prestigious. So congratulations on
Thank
that
you.
because
No, it's a
the
great place
people,
to be. I'm lucky.
yeah, and it's a gorgeous campus,
Yep.
so you can't really go wrong at all.
No.
So great. So basketball. Now let's talk about music. How has it always been there, or what's the deal with that?
So, not really. I took an intro to guitar class at Chapman as an undergrad. I had never played music growing up. I was always a writer. I enjoy the craft of writing throughout middle school, grade school, into high school and college. So writing was something that was there, but actually learning an instrument and singing wasn't something that came later. Um, I took an intro to guitar class my freshman year at Chapman, and that was for selfish reasons, really. Just wanted to impress my buddies or impress the girl across the hall. But then once I learned and got a little more into it, the writing side started to be more interesting to me, and I really got into teaching myself how to play. And so it wasn't until after I graduated from Chapman that I was actually working at the mutual fund company, and I'd written a couple of songs and had looked up places that have open mic nights and things like that. And one night after work, just decided to go to an open mic night and play. And I'd never sang in front of anybody before. Was the most one of the dumbest things I could do with myself. So afraid to go up in front of people and sing. But I grabbed a buddy of mine and my brother and said, "Hey, will you come and check out this open mic night with me?" And I played a few songs and got a nice response from the crowd that night, and went home and thought, okay, like I'll keep testing this thing out. Um, Went to some more open mic nights, and eventually there was an open mic night host that really liked my material, and he connected me with a producer and engineer in LA, and I've recorded my last 5 records with that producer. His name is Sean Norse, and things have just kind of gone from there. So I've had a lot of great experiences. I've been lucky to play some great shows and get to tour Europe twice. I'll be back next year in Europe. My last album, I was fortunate to have it land on some of the top 10 folk singer-songwriter lists of 2019, so that was nice. I had a song as one of the top songs of 2019 from that album, and so it's been a fun journey that's still right in the middle of it, but I'm lucky to have both things in my life. A lot of times when I get in these interviews and people try to figure out who the heck are you a coach or musician or what is it, and it's fun to do both. It keeps me balanced. The creativity of both, of coaching and the creativity of writing and creating music, are two things that I love to do on a daily basis, and I think they feed off of each other really well. So yeah, a little bit of my path so far in the music industry.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I love this. It's kind of eclectic, but then it just works. Like sometimes, we have these things that are presented to us in life, and we decide to take on the challenge, and we decide to grow with it. Really, really makes a big difference. I know I've talked to people. So I worked in the tech industry for about 15 plus years, and then now I'm a real estate agent, and people say, "Oh my gosh, it's so different." Well, it's true in one sense. Like um, I've never done sales before,
Uh-huh.
But when I went into real estate, it was like pure sales. So and I've learned to like it and love it. And not that it was super hard because I was already a people person. I just was a people person. I was stuck in the office for so many years.
Mm-hmm.
But then so when I get a chance to kind of grow my craft on the people side and on the sales side, there was no I didn't feel like it was a struggle. It's still something that I really enjoyed. And some people it might not, right? Like, oh my gosh, I mean, I've been on the computer for so many years, and computers don't argue. They don't talk back. They just say no. It's like, hey, that didn't work. you know,
Right.
it's very simple, right? There's like no emotion involved. But one of the reasons I got out was because I just didn't feel like I wanted to be outside. I wanted to talk to people. I want to go on appointments. I want to go talk to people what their needs are and fulfill them, as opposed to fixing machines and fixing people's uh, desktop computer or whatever. I was doing a lot. I mean, I was managing a nice department and everything, but I was really bored. So that's the reason I brought that up is like it doesn't make sense on the surface, but I can totally see like it makes sense just because like I mentioned earlier, I love basketball and I love music, and when you're at a basketball game, what do? You listen to music, right?
That's right. Yeah, it's really funny. Just the two different industries I'm in, and you mentioned that a little bit. So, people in my life that are in the basketball coaching world, they are fascinated by the music and music industry. Like they always want to know more. Like what was going on the tour? Where'd you travel? Hey, how do you do this? How do you do that? They're really interested in how the music scene works and how I have a 7-piece band. So like how you get the whole band together. Um, People in the music world are not always as interested in basketball. For whatever reason, the musician buddies I have, some of them are, but musicians can tend to be a little just not as big as sports fans, and so it's always funny. Some of my bandmates and people I meet in the music world could really care less about the intricacies of the pick and roll and who was better, Kobe and Shaq or Kobe and Pau, doing that whole thing. But it's still fun nonetheless. But I got to ask you, so you're a basketball fan. You mentioned Jordan. Are you a Laker fan? Are you still a Bulls fan? Or are you just a Michael Jordan fan?
I really believe that the organization, the business side of it, really brings the right players to the to the organization. And I've always admired the Lakers organization for bringing in Magic, Kareem, and all those people together, because that doesn't happen overnight. Players don't just decide like, yeah, we're gonna go play with these guys and be in the team. And just the organization of the Bus family and everything is something to be admired. So for always as a team, I always love Lakers. But there's nothing that could ever replace the Bulls team as players in the 90s. Like it's just like you step on the court and you're going to lose. That kind of dominance,
Mm-hmm.
this
Did you
is
watch the Last Dance documentary?
absolutely like I
Unbelievable.
can't believe it took them 20 years to make that. It should have made it.
Well, I'm glad it came out when it did because it was the start of
Yeah,
quarantine and
and
it gave
amazing.
us something to look forward
Yeah,
to.
so amazing. And I remember all those moments, and I remember all those players. And to get some additional insights, like if you watch some interviews with some of the, old timers who were playing during that era, they all, have gotten a lot of inside story that they never heard before, even as professional players themselves. So, but what I love about basketball is that the lessons it gives regarding your individual performance and then your team performance,
Yeah.
how that dynamic works, and then um, you have the coach and their role plays a huge impact on what happens in the last 5 seconds, last 7 seconds of the game. So I learn a lot about life through those very very specific moments, and you pick them right. We got this 48 minutes of play, and you pick the moments that are the most pivotal, and you learn a lesson from that every single game that I get to watch, and that's what I really love about it.
Yeah. You know, living in and having my career be in the sports world and the coaching world is it's a difficult one because the results of your work are public, right? It's in the paper, it's in the news. The score of the game that you coached, you either won or lost. There's no ties in basketball. So what's a great learning lesson, and the things that we talk about with our guys all the time, is it's falling in love with the process of trying to become great or trying to achieve your goals, and the results will follow. But it's tough. I mean, on a nightly basis, we can prepare as well as we possibly can. There's a fellow assistant coach of mine, Mike Molina, who I think might be watching right now at Chapman. Him and I, as well as Coach Bukowski, spend hours and hours preparing, get our guys ready in practice. We could play the perfect game, and the other team might just be better than us that night, and we come out and it's a loss. But the great thing is you just get up the next morning and you start again, and you go through the same process, and that process over and over and over again is what produces great results, when you look at the whole thing. And so I enjoy that part of it. There's no day that's the same as a college basketball coach. Every day is different. The guys every year are different. Every season takes on its own story, and that's a really fun part of it. And like you mentioned, the lessons that you can learn from the game are endless. Daily lessons that kids and I learn from them as well. So it's a great place to be, and I love doing it.
Yeah, and it continues to shape, my thoughts about, how to be a good person, a hardworking person, a person who is going to take those chances to lay on the line. If you got to take that shot, take that last shot, then you got to, you're the guy to do it. Don't
Yeah.
shy away from those moments. You might not make it, you might lose, and then there's lessons on the losses, and then how you come back from them. I just can't say enough about it as not as a player, but as a fan of the game. And
Well,
so,
Leo, we got to have you at a game next year.
oh my
Hopefully,
God, I would love
I'll leave you tickets. Bring some people, and that would be fun.
that. Okay, so you have so much here, and I want to try to get to them all because it's so valuable. What kind of music you play? Like, can you describe the genre of music? Like, what kind of band you guys have?
Yeah. So, um, it on its in its general genre, it's folk pop rock. So it's a little bit of John Mayer meets the Lumineers, dashed with some Jack Johnson, and kind of sprinkled all together and put into one. So it's a little bit folky at times, but then it's a full band. I've got 6 other guys in my band that are fantastic players, and we can really turn it up and do some more rock and some more blues. A couple guys in my band are huge funk influence guys, and so we have a couple songs that um, can kind of get into that funk vibe. And so our live band, the full band, is a lot of fun. We kind of are all over the map genre wise, but kind of staying from that folk pop rock sort of contemporary listening type of music.
Yeah, I'm interested already. I'm like, hey.
Good, I sold you. I've had 10 years to work on that pitch, so hopefully.
It's not like they ask a question and the other person says, "I rap." That's
Right.
it.
Yeah.
So super awesome. Yeah, no, I'd love to hear you play as well. What's your where locally? Where do you normally play?
Yeah. So, before COVID, we were different places. We always had a stand at the Orange County Fair. We'd play for a week there. As far as local stuff, there's some local clubs and things like that we would play at. We played at the Pageant of the Masters. Played at a place called the Boathouse, which is in Costa Mesa.
I know
Um,
the Bauhaus. Bauhaus is
yeah, Boaz, that stage is a cool place. So, gosh, we play kind of all over. When I go on the road, like when I go to Europe, so far I've just gone myself, and I do more of an acoustic solo tour, but done tours as well with like a trio and things like that. So, yeah, we were planning on having a show at Campus Jacks. We were gonna have one before the whole COVID situation, so we'll plan on being back there. So people can follow Dan Krikorian music, or add me as a friend. I actually, so after our talk, I do a Friday night live every Friday during quarantine. Except for the last couple, we took a couple week break, but I do a live online concert, and so that starts at 7 tonight, and that's been a lot of fun. We play for an hour and a half. I write some jokes to tell at the top of every show just to try to loosen it up a little bit. And my wife comes on and kind of rates whether she likes the jokes or not, and so does the audience. So, yeah, so in an hour and a half here, if someone's bored and looking for something, they can pop over and check out the show.
Yeah. How do they get on? How do they get on the stream?
So my band page is Dan Krikorian Music. So if you on Facebook, if you look up my name, Dan Krikorian, my band page should show up. If you're friends with me, then I also share it to my regular page. So, but the band page is where you'll find it.
Okay, very cool. I know we have your personal page, dankrikorian.com, so it's just dankrikorianmusic.com.
Yeah, and if you did go to just my website, dankrikorian.com, you could link to the show from my website too, because I have the Facebook link
Yeah,
there
very
too.
cool. I had a couple of musician friends come on my live like this, and they played,
Cool.
so like an hour, and then a little bit of music, a little bit of chatting, a little bit some more music, a little bit of storytelling, So it's
That's good.
awesome. We can do something like that, with you.
For sure. Yeah. Well, I was practicing right before we came on because I'm trying to get ready for tonight. So yeah, we could do that.
Yeah, super cool. I love that. I love that. Okay. So let's talk a little podcasting, So this is something newer that you started doing?
Yeah. So started the Beautiful Work podcast 2 years ago, and I just released episode 37 or 38 a couple days ago, and so we release 2 episodes a month. It's called Beautiful Work Podcast, and it's a deep dive, usually an hour to hour and a half show that is really deep dive into these different people's lives and what they do. And so we've had just so many terrific guests. We've had ex NBA head coaches, Olympians, um, best-selling authors, kind of all over the map. And so yeah, we kind of dig into their life and their work and how that whole thing takes place. And so it's been a really fun addition to the other things that I do. And I started it because I'm a podcast fan myself. I love listening to them, and I get a lot out of them. And so, being in a lot of different worlds, being in a professional coaching world and the music world, and then being a professor as well, and always running into and rubbing elbows with people that are much much smarter than me. I thought, why don't I just try to bring these people on, and we can kind of really dig into who they are and how they got to where they are. And it's been a blast. So that's called the Beautiful Work Podcast. You can find all the episodes on my website as well. And you and I were talking before we went live. I usually prepare 3 to 4 hours at least for every guest before the show, and I've got a couple of guys back to back on Sunday and Monday that have both won a Pulitzer Prize in as authors. And so I've had my work cut out for me this week trying to bone up on all of their past work so I can at least have a decent conversation with them for an hour. So I love doing it. It keeps me on my toes, and it's been great.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm just like when I listen to you talk, I'm like, oh my God, this guy has said so many things that I love, in life as well. Though I have my other professions, but these are really great things in life.
Well, I'm looking for a house soon, Leo. So I got to hit you
Oh
up.
yeah.
We get some coffee and and we can do that.
Yeah, that definitely. With all the things that you do, you probably have some specifics of what you would love to have, a music room or something, or
A detached garage so I can build a studio.
oh, okay, yeah, that
So
yeah, we can definitely
okay,
do that. Yeah, so let's plan on that for sure.
for sure.
Yeah, so yeah, this podcast medium is so interesting. Part of my plan with all of these interviews is that I'll have them as content to play with when I have time. I can extract the audio and I can put some stuff together. I don't know. You and I never talked, but originally this was supposed to be a podcast, and so I said, yeah, we're gonna start a podcast. So I started doing some, like everybody tells you, get your accounts on Anchor. You do your intro, you do your outro, you put your music, you slice it together, you get it in there, and then you start doing the show. So I did 2 episodes with a co-host, and I was like, you know, we're just having a conversation here. Why did I do all this, go through all this trouble? And now
Uh-huh.
I, for all of my, followers, try to get people, to see see and listen to the podcast when I've already built up following on Facebook. And I just kind of like, okay, let's just do that, and initially we are going to do like a podcast show once a week.
Uh-huh.
So since I can do it so easily on Facebook Live, and I just didn't want to do, for lack of better words, like a ton of homework for this academic thing. I just want to have conversation because we're right in the middle of COVID in March, and I think I speak for everybody when they say like, hey, after 2 weeks, like I was done just sitting at home, not having to work and or telecommuting or whatever it is that everybody was doing. Like some people are like, I'm tired of my family, and totally understandable. We're in close spaces,
Yeah.
and we
Yeah.
all need our we all need our space, and nothing bad about that. And so that's when I thought, I miss all the people that I connect with regularly. Let me just go live. It's easy for them to hop on. You don't need, sound equipment or all that kind of stuff. Let's just hop on. Everybody's got a phone. Everybody's got a camera. Everybody's got a laptop, and you can go on Zoom and just do that. And so that's kind of how this was born. And I've been super blessed and happy because everybody's been introducing me to other people that I never knew, like you.
Yeah.
Come on, and I get to learn a lot about, you. And I didn't realize you're so local because I had no context. Like Michaela said, you got to talk to this guy, and that's all I knew. And so, but I also love the discovery,
Yeah.
of who you are and the great things that you're doing and producing, at a high level. So I really appreciate that.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
So we didn't talk about, the professor part. You teach in
Yep.
basketball, or you teach some other class?
No, I teach. I actually I do teach a basketball class, like a PE class at Chapman as well. But I teach two academic courses in the School of Education at Chapman, and so they're great courses to teach. I was lucky; I actually got to um, create both of the courses that I teach, along with the head of the department. We crafted these two classes that I teach, both semesters. And so one of them is called Sport and Society, and the other one is called Ethical Controversy in Sport and Society. And so we really look at the cross sections of, where sports and society commingle, and they mix basically on everything, on every issue you can think about: race, politics, economic equality, all sorts of things we dive into. And I've always liked, you know I like teaching the classes because sports is such an easy entry point into talking about bigger and sometimes, more important issues that go on in society. And so, you know being able to have these sometimes difficult conversations with 18 to 22 year olds, when you look at it through the lens of sports, or you look at, great coaches or athletes and how they're dealing with situations, it's an easier way to have discussions with young people and to bridge the gap, rather than just, come in and say, hey, we're going to talk about, race relations today. Well, you just come in and say that to a bunch of 18 to 22 year olds at 7 p.m. on a Tuesday. They're falling asleep. They don't want to, it's a tough thing. But when you look at certain things going on in the world of sports, and enter from that point of view, I've learned so much from my students. I love teaching the classes. It's one of my favorite things to do, outside of the other things that I do. But um, I've especially right now. So, during the COVID situation, we were able to look at leadership and different leaders of, the NCAA, the NFL, how they're handling the COVID crisis, what decisions they're making, the good, the bad, and um, I'm really looking forward to getting back in the fall and teaching these again, amidst all the things going on in our society.
Wow, that's awesome. I love all the things that you're doing. It does sound like the classes have some social aspect with it, along with the sports world, which is kind of a mix of sports and entertainment, but then there's social issues, among all of that as well.
Yeah. Um, I, I always tell the people that sign up for my class, this is not going to be a class that we're just going to talk about the score of the Laker game, and how many points, the best player scored. It's not that kind of a class. some of the people that I've had the pleasure of teaching are ones that come from a sport they didn't play sports at all. They actually, maybe don't like sports. They don't watch it, and their input is just as valid as somebody, that's an athlete on campus, because you can still have a great conversation about some of the topics that we cover. So I enjoy that aspect of it as well.
Yeah, I can tell like all of these subjects are they're super passionate. We go deep on all of that stuff. So I think what I love to do is kind of schedule in on, down the road, and I will go like really, really deep on basketball, and then
Okay, yeah.
really deep on the music, and have you play a little bit, and maybe talk about some social issues that you may talk about in your classes and stuff like that, because it's um, I don't want to overwhelm people with what's happening because there's so much news and so much talk about it, but it is something that does deserve, some time. And I like to, kind of,
Yeah,
go over that stuff with you sometime.
I would love to.
So I want to be respectful of your time. I think we got a really, really, good sense of, who you are and what you do. And I'm super grateful that there's somebody like you who is really multifaceted and to be able to give a lot of value. So I'm really grateful that you came on and spend the time with us. Um, I will always ask people, what's the one thing that you want to tell everybody out there that they can take away for today?
Ooh. Well, um, gosh, it's a great question. I don't, so many
And I
different bits
put you
of
on the
advice that are.
spot.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry to put you on the spot a little bit.
No, no, it's okay. I think that something timely right now that I've tried to do, and I've tried to do with members of my family and friends, is to spend this time that we have is a chance to have some critical self reflection, and to grow from both people you agree with or don't agree with, and uh, find the commonality amongst us all. Not to sound too hippie with it, but I think one of the things for today, it's really hard in some of the divisive stuff that we're seeing all the time that you mentioned, that we won't go into today because it's going to take much more than time we have. Um, but I've tried to use this quarantine myself to to have some self reflection on the things I value and the things that are important to me, and to push forward. And I think the discomfort that we all have felt in various ways throughout this COVID-19 and the social unrest and all that will hopefully lead to greater growth, both individually and as a society, as we move forward. And so um, I guess that would be my advice to
Yeah,
take for today.
yeah, great, great. Thank you so much. I think, yeah, I totally agree with you. Uh, uh, I don't want to say, we needed this, but it certainly gave people such a different perspective and in a positive way.
Yeah.
And I think everybody is trying to find new ways of life that's better than before COVID. So I'm grateful for that. People are taking much more seriously, just their daily life and people around them, how precious life is and all that kind of stuff. And for that, I'm super grateful. And I'm grateful for you for coming on. Um, Everybody, yeah, facebook.com/Dan Krikorian Music or dankrikorianmusic.com. He's going to be, on live shortly
Yeah,
here.
about an hour. I'll be
Yeah,
I'll be going live.
check that out. And I appreciate all of you. Thank you for logging on. This is Friday, so we won't see you until Monday. We got kind of a short week next week with 4th of July coming up. I hope everybody has a safe weekend. We are in full swing here in summertime, Southern California. And just please be safe and be courteous and be kind. I love you all, and I will see you next time.
Thanks, Leo.
Thanks.